People's Voice.
Welcome back. Welcome back. This is the People's Voice. I am Trey Evans, and I am the People's Voice. Appreciate y'all tuning in again this show for this podcast. Going to be a little different today because I am recording from, as you guys can see, another location. It's been a busy week, and I did not have enough time to get back to the home studio to record like I normally do. So, today we're just going to do it here on the road, so to speak, and, hope I can provide some additional information and enlighten some of us, including myself, who may not be privy to some of the information that we cover here on the podcast. So today I want to get right into it. Today I want to focus on gun violence. And, I try to stay away from a lot of the sensational stories that occur in the news media because, forgive me on the background noise. Like I said, y'all, I'm in a different location, so you're going to hear some things, but I'm going to try to talk as loud as possible so we can get through this. I try to stay away from a lot of the sensational stories that are covered in the news media because, really you can get that information, just at the tip of your fingertips. It's in your Twitter feeds, on your Instagram, Facebook, things of that nature. So that information is usually readily available, and I try to stay away from it. But because it's just been such a crazy 10 days with the gun violence that has occurred here in the United States, I have to address it and, talk a little bit about some statistics regarding the proliferation of guns in our country. And it is, without a doubt, become an epidemic regarding the level of violence that is taking place as a result of guns. And so for many of you, or for those of you who may not have heard, especially for those of you who live outside the country, in the last 10 days, the United States has had two what they're calling mass shooting incidents. And these incidents literally have occurred. Well, actually, there was three. So I don't want to discount that. There were three mass shooting incidents in the last 10 days. And these incidents occurred in literally random areas. The victims are literally individuals who, at one time there was a code, if you will. And I know that sounds more of a, organized crime type of talk, but there used to be a code that, certain individuals were just, off limits in terms of violent acts. And usually that was, of course, children and elderly people, and of course people attending church. But, clearly those rules have gone out the window, and, there is no longer, I shouldn't say the rules, but clearly that code is no longer being honored, and then therefore, many innocent and vulnerable individuals in this country are being targeted as a result of gun violence. But the gun violence that took place in the last 10 days, again, for those of you who, may be out the country, or those of you in the country who, just haven't been following the news, but there was first an incident in Buffalo, New York, where a 18-year-old man went into a supermarket and began to just randomly shoot victims. His targets were black people, and it was done indiscriminately with a semi-automatic rifle. He also had body armor, literally went into a grocery store prepared for war, but his intentions, without a doubt, was to kill people, and he made that clear. He had a manifesto, and they did the research on his social media page and all of that. Then I believe the same day there was another incident in California where a gunman went into a church, and I believe it was people of Asian descent, and he went into a church and shot individuals because of some type of political conflict that he believed was being pushed on his, I guess, the people of his community or from where the area of Asia from where he's from. And so he just went in there and indiscriminately, shot, I believe, 5 people. 1 died. In the Buffalo case, I believe 10 people were killed. And then just this week, we had another incident. And, this one really, in terms of the anger level, probably, I shouldn't compare it. I mean, it's all tragedy, but this one was just, we use the word senseless all the time when we talk about, criminal acts. But this one was truly senseless. Demonic, just evil. We recently had a case in Texas. I think it's Uvalde, Texas. I might be saying that wrong. But another 18-year-old man grabs a gun, semi-automatic weapon, or I should say purchases it, and goes into a school filled with kids. I believe the ages were like 8 to 12. It might have been like a elementary school, and goes in there and randomly just starts killing these kids without any warning, runs into the school. I believe he killed 2 teachers as well. Also, before he went to the school, he left there and he left his home and shot his grandmother. And, at some point, outrage is no longer enough or big enough of a word to use when it comes to this type of violence. We've literally started to become numb to some of these incidents. And, today I wanted to just discuss a little bit about what I believe is the cause of these acts. And, I started to have this debate online, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna talk about this on the podcast. Like I said, I truly do try to stay away from these sensational stories, because you can get this information anywhere. But today I just had to talk about it. I couldn't pass up and not at least speak on it. So today is about guns in the United States. Those of us that know, and those of you that know, when I say those of you that know, those who understand the history of the country, we all know that this country was founded in a violent manner, right? Violence is in the DNA of the country. But progressively, the violence that is been a part of this country is becoming more and more indiscriminate. It's becoming more and more unpredictable, and it is creating mass casualties. And the mass casualties is because of the amount of guns that are here in the United States. And so I started to pull up some charts because, like I said, this started from a discussion online and kind of replying back to some posts where there were those who would defend, as usual, guns are not a problem, and it's the people, it's mental health, and we have rights to guns, Second Amendment, blah, 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 blah. And all of that's fine and well, and I'm not against anyone owning a gun. If you have the need to own a gun for your protection, then that's what you have to do. I understand that. Now, I know it's those who hunt and they'll say, well, I use the gun for and that's fine, whatever. The problem is that the guns are going into the hands of individuals who have evil intentions. And this argument that people who are gun supporters and supporters of Second Amendment rights and things of that nature, when they try to argue against the violence is not increasing as a result of the guns, that's where I get truly defensive. Well, not even defensive. I get really debatable because I'm saying that all of the information is out there. This is not something that is being concocted just to push a political point or a political view. There is data, actual data that shows that gun violence in the United States continues to increase. And it is because there are a proliferation of guns. So I was having this debate. Like I said, I had some individuals said, no, it's not getting worse. And so I pulled up a chart. And it was a chart that shows data basically from 1995 until this year. And the data was a chart, I believe it's from the Pew Research, that showed gun-related deaths in the United States since 1995. And literally, the chart shows that there were a total, well, I won't give the total, but the chart shows that, well, I will give the total, excuse me. So the chart was broken down into two categories. It was broken down into suicides by gun and then homicide by gun. Now, what's not talked about often is that many suicides are by gun in the United States. And it literally showed in 1995-96, there were about 15,000 deaths, gun-related deaths in the U.S. from suicide-related deaths by gun. In around 1995, it was 15,000. Then the chart shows that now in 2021, last recorded, there are almost 25,000 people who have killed themselves with a gun since 1995. But the number that really stood out to me was the number of homicides as a result of guns. So gun deaths in the United States, in 1995, it was about 10,000 people a year were being killed by guns. Now in 2021, that number literally has increased by 50%, by 100%. And that number is now 20,000 people every year are killed, homicide, by guns. And like I said, this conversation that we've been having regarding whether or not guns are a problem, to me, I'm often just taken back because I'm saying to myself, the data is out there, right? This is not, I don't even know why this is a debatable conversation. Guns are a problem in our communities, in our country, in our cities, in our states. And I find often that when you give this type of data, like I just covered, you'll find many people will try to twist the narrative and say, well, that just depends on where it's at and it's not as bad as you think it is. But the numbers clearly say that it is. So that was just one of the charts that I wanted to talk about. Gun-related deaths in the United States continue to increase every year and has increased every year since 1995. And that was a chart that I was looking at. So then I wanted to kind of get some additional data. And again, I'm going back and forth and literally on an online platform having this conversation. So then I sent out another chart. And this chart, also from the Pew Research Center, shows the number of active shooting incidents since 2000. So literally, it breaks out the number of shooter incidents, active shooter incidents since 2000. So in 2000, I'll even go to 2010. 2010, there was a reported 27 active shooter incidents in the United States. That's in just 2010. In 2020, 10 years later, there were 40 active shooter events recorded or reported in the United States. And this active shooter incidents, as it says here on the graph, are defined by the FBI as one or more individuals actively engaging in killing or attempting to kill in a populated area. That's what an active shooter is, or active shooter incident. So again, these numbers talk for themselves. But oftentimes when you talk to these individuals, they constantly want to deny what the numbers are. The numbers are there. The facts are there. There is a unquenchable thirst for guns here in the United States. And, United States, around the world, and even here inside of the country, people love to boast that this is the greatest country on earth. But with many of the financial gains that the country has made throughout the time that it's been established, a lot of that has also brought on a lot of insecurity from people, or the perception that people need guns to protect a lot of the financial gains, or a lot of the prosperity that has been gained as a result of living here in America. And guns have become part of the way that many people feel that they need to protect their, air quotes, assets, so to speak, in order to prevent crime. Now, it is well documented that more guns does not prevent crime, right? Crime will occur in any environment, country, based on the population of the people. And crimes can vary, everything from robbery to murder. But what happens when you add the gun to the mix is that now there's an opportunity to kill multiple people in a very short span of time. And, the response can't just be that we need to add more guns. Last but not least, I wanted to talk about this article from Forbes. Forbes has an article where they are talking about the number of guns that have been sold in the United States. And it was documented that last year in the United States, there were 20 million guns sold in the United States, which is the second highest amount, or the second highest in 1 year, I think in a decade. So the fact that, so many people try to dispute whether or not guns are a problem is almost laughable to me at many times, because again, all of the data that that I've pulled all state that guns are a problem. So, what can we do about it? Because, other countries don't have, especially developed countries, don't have this type of problem. The last chart that I'll talk about is the one that I pulled from the UN ODC, and it showed the number of homicides by guns by individual country. And the United States is far ahead of Italy, Canada, United Kingdom, Japan, Germany, France. I mean, by leaps and bounds. And this is again of organized or established countries. It doesn't account for all of the countries around the world. And it says right here the G8 countries. So out of all of the G8 countries, the United States has the highest amount of homicides by gun than any of the other G8 countries in the world. So we know what the problem is. So what can we do about it, or what should we do about it? And it has been proposed many times about universal background checks. Now, I'm not against universal background checks, but at the same time, I don't believe that universal background checks are the solution to stop the problem with the violence that has occurred as a result of guns, the proliferation of guns in the United States. I truly believe that there needs to be limits set on who should have guns, what type of guns should be manufactured, and when those guns are manufactured, again, who should be receiving them. There's no reason why an 18-year-old kid should have a semi-automatic handgun that they can then go into a supermarket, a semi-automatic rifle, and go into a supermarket and kill innocent elderly people. There shouldn't be a reason why a man can run into a church with a handgun and shoot churchgoers, and there definitely should never be a reason why an 18-year-old kid or 18-year-old man, should have an automatic rifle and is able to barricade himself in a school while he sits there and murders 19 innocent children or 18 innocent children. It definitely has to do with money, which we all know is what makes the capitalist wheel go round here in the United States. But it definitely has to be more than just universal background checks. I don't think that will prevent the level of violence that we've seen to this point. And it's just because a person can do a background check this year and you don't know what might happen to that person in 6 months that will trigger that individual to then go into a rage or to be upset or decide that they want to kill innocent people. In the case of the 18-year-old that just killed all of these children, there was no signs that he was in any way, at least the preliminary reports say that there were no signs that he was a danger to the community, that he was going to go on this type of killing spree. So I don't think universal background checks are the answer. I definitely think it is a step in the right direction, but it really comes down to putting pressure on the manufacturers of these companies to ask them, why are they creating these type of guns in the first place to end up in the hands of civilians? These guns are designed to kill in times of war. And, you know, the war that's being waged is not against protecting. The war being waged is now being conducted against innocent individuals, and it's really a sad statement about where our country has disintegrated to, and you know, that change will only come when you cut off the resources of these companies to manufacture these guns, which is a tall task. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but the only way change occurs in a capitalist society is that you have to hit these individuals in their pockets. So every time a person is killed with a gun manufactured by one of these companies, that company should then receive some type of financial penalty, some type of substantial lawsuit should be placed against that company for not properly making sure that their product has gotten into the hands of individuals for who it was designed for. So that's my take on it. Like I said, I had to cover it. It just is sickening at this point. And you know, I would love to say that we wouldn't talk about this again, but unfortunately, I know that at some point we will be talking about this again, and we'll keep the conversation going. So, you know, that's my time for today. I hope I was able to provide some type of information and maybe some type of preliminary solutions that we can take into our community and into our so-called elected officials, and see if we can kind of get some type of information, some type of progress done with you know, hopefully trying to end this trend and this desire that we have for guns here in the United States. So as always, dreams are not just for sleeping. Please wake up and live your dreams. My name is Trey Evans, the People's Voice. Tell somebody about the dream. Salute. The People's Voice.